Hey guys, welcome back to the Bonehorde. This is the Blonde Skeleton. We're back with, I think, probably the final video on the Little Pink Houses series. We're going to look at doing details on the Little Pink House we've been working on. It's the small elven-style cottage. You may see from the last video we have doors and windows installed, so I'm going to take a moment and show you guys how I installed that by installing the last one. And then we're going to install some of these timbers here so that we can get some of these details in there and some other like little embellishments to make it look good and give it a little bit of style. So that's what we'll be doing today. So installing these doors and windows is actually pretty easy. We have our little clay window that we made in the last video. The first step is to just kind of locate it on the model where we want to place it. I kind of position it as consistently as possible. You'll notice this one, you know, my windows were different sizes and they ended up a little higher or lower, and that's okay. You know, I mean, those little variations are fine by me. I'm not gonna sweat it too much. I think they give it a little bit of cartoonish character, which I think is great, you know, right next to all of the, you know, insane detail that we put into these things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to position this on this side because I wanted to put it in after I put in these timbers, which I'll show you in a moment. Once I do that, then what I can do is I'll just set this thing in place, make sure that it's kind of in a balanced position relative to the timbers, and I'm just going to press it down a little bit, make sure it's right about where I want it to be. I'm going to press it down, and it's just going to leave a little indent in the sculpture, and I'm gonna carve it out with an X-Acto knife. I'm just gonna carve that little section out. I'm gonna double check it to make sure it's square and straight and all that business, because we're just a little tricky. This time I think because it's a little bit off, I'm gonna adjust it and I'm gonna use the piece itself as kind of a guide. And I'm actually, with the blade, I'm actually going in at a little bit of an angle toward the piece. And that is because I want a nice snug fit. If I were to go on the outside and just go straight down, it would have kind of a gap around the outside where some of the glue might leak out or where it might just have a big gap. And I don't really want that. I want to kind of avoid that stuff. So I'm going to try and keep it as tight as humanly possible. So just be carving it out, sawing it out as delicately as possible. I'm just doing a vertical cut right now, and then I'm going to pop this sucker out, and I'm going to angle my blade as low as I can, and then along the cut edge, I'm going to put the back of the knife edge so that I don't carve into the part that I'm keeping, and I'm just going to scoop it out. You know, I'm not going to worry about this being too pretty of a cut or being too clean. Because we're gonna melt the crap out of it with hot glue anyway, so it doesn't really matter how it looks under there. It's gonna be covered up. All we need to do is get this deep enough so that the window itself is a little bit inset into the piece, and maybe leave a little bit to the outside so that it doesn't, a little bit proud, I guess is what you would call it. So as not to make it look all flush and flat, because that kind of takes away from the dimension of it, and then I feel like I've got to go back and put frames around the windows, and then that's just more time, and God knows we've already put a lot of time into this piece. So as soon as I clear that out, you know, I've got a nice deep kind of cavity in there, and I'm not going to worry about that peak in the middle because that's actually going to set my depth pretty well. And I'm just going to dry fit it, because I dry fit everything. I don't want to just jump in and glue stuff together. I want to sit there and make sure that it actually fits the way I want it to, and I think that looks pretty darn good to me. So I'm going to pop it out, drop a little bead of glue in there. Hot, hot glue. The good stuff, you know what I say. It is delicious. It is sweet, sweet hot glue. We like it so much. And we squeeze it down there. Good. And that's it. That is done. Okay. So we have a nice, happy little window in the top floor of our happy little cottage. So next up, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead on the other side, and we're going to install some timbers, which I've already cut down into little pieces with the hot wire cutter. Just this is about 1/8 of an inch square. It's kind of more of a rectangle, but it's kind of a rough piece. I'm going to take my wire brush. I'm going to use the edge of my table so I don't stab myself too much with it, and I'm going to press it down and give it some texture. 1, 2, a 3, and oh, it twisted. Sometimes it'll twist if you get down to the end. And 4, there we go. Okay, so I have a nice textured piece here that is now, I guess I'm gonna have to get it a little bit closer. It has a nice wood texture on it, so a little bit of wood grain there. If I want it a little bit deeper, I'll go back and hit it again, or hit it at a different angle. I go sideways with the brush because that's a little bit gentler. If you want to go a little bit deeper and get some of that rough hewn feel to it, then you can go lengthwise with the brush, and that'll gouge it out just a little bit more. All depends on what you want as far as your look. I want this one to be a little bit cleaner. It's Elven architecture, a little bit. I imagine the person who built this house to be a little bit more careful. I mean, it's a simple cottage, but it's quaint and it's cute. So I figure we'll leave that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up the base of the house on one of these grid patterns here. So I'm going to line up. You can't really see it from the where the camera's at right now, but I'm using the bottom of this and I'm lining it up right along, just kind of eyeballing it along the grid pattern. I can't see it from this side, so I'm going to flip it around myself here because I'm right-handed. I'm going to stick it there, and then we're going to lay our timber right across it, and then I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to cut parallel to these grid lines so that I get a nice clean peak when I install this. And I'm going to dry fit it again, just kind of slide it into place, see how it looks. I think it needs a little bit more graining, which is dang near impossible to do once it's installed, so you better do it now. Okay, that's going to look good. All right, so cool. Then I'm going to pick a spot that's, you know, about 3/8 of an inch below the edge of the roof that we've installed, and I'm going to cut it square, and that's going to be the end of the timber sticking out at the base of the roof. That'll give it kind of a nice detail and just a fun little piece. Okay, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Ta-da! One of the things you can do to save time is because these are going to be kind of complementary angles here. You can just, oh, I don't know what the term is. I'm not a mathematician. Complementary. I don't know, is it? What's the other one? Oh, hell if I know. Hey, if you remember, just put it in the comments below. I have no idea. I don't do math. I just build things. All right, so so that's going to be a little bit obtuse, so we want this a little bit more acute. It's a cute angle. Yeah, sorry about that. I'll stop. All right, so then now we have these two pieces. I'm going to do the same thing, mark it about 3/8 of an inch down. Just kind of rough cutting it. I'm not particular about it being super specific. You can be very precise about it if you want to. I mean, that's definitely your prerogative. I don't take that great a care for it because I think, you know, the overall effect is one that I enjoy when it's just a little bit cartoony and a little bit almost hand-drawn, you know. So kind of fits the style of the minis and whatnot that I really like. So I'm going to glue on two sides and right in between where the joint is going to be. I'm going to move this one out of the way. I'm going to slide the point in first and kind of press it up against the roof with my finger. And then just press the whole thing down. I'm going to clear out any of the spider webs as I go. I'm going to use one of these extra pieces to kind of clear out any glue that is kind of in the way. I just realized you don't want to put the one in the middle yet unless you're ready to just install this other one. So you don't want to put the glue right there just yet until you get ready to install your second piece. On my second piece, I'm going to do that because I'm ready to do that now. So I'm going to draw my, whoops, screwed that up. See, I screw up all the time. I'm just going to take that and wipe that off. If you do this sort of thing, just be aware that glue is really hot. I have so many calluses on my hands from building stuff all the time that I don't feel anything anymore. But if you're not used to it, it's probably gonna pinch a little bit. So just be aware. Burns are burns, people. Don't be too crazy unless you're prepared to deal with it. So and I'm gonna put my bead of glue on the back side where it actually belongs. And wait for this floppy little thing to settle down. Then I'm gonna slide it into place. I'm gonna push it in and make sure it fits nice and snug. And clean it up as much as I can. Get the glue off my fingers. Clean it up with my X-Acto knife. Just kind of trim off some of that still warm and soft glue while I can, because it's a little easier to deal with it now when it's still soft than it is after it's gotten all hard, and then you have to kind of carve at it. It's kind of a pain in the ass. So cool. So then we have our timbers on two ends of the gables, right? So that's how we do details on a little pink house. Thank you guys for joining me so far. I do want to say welcome to all our new subscribers, all my new subscribers. Thank you so much for joining up. I hope I continue to make videos that you guys find useful. I know that my tech isn't super fancy and I'm not doing all kinds of crazy music or whatever, but I hope that I'm finding things that are useful to you and showing you techniques that you guys can make use of to make your craft better. You know, I've been really fortunate to have learned from some of the best on the web. You know, DM Scotty, of course, and DMG, and Wylock, and Pillapow over at Black Magic Craft, as well as John Susky and V over at the Crafting Muse. Just some great work that these guys do. I want to send out a special thank you to V for pointing some of you guys my direction on her channel and giving me a shout out. So thank you. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you guys have any ideas of projects you wanna see me make, or tips or techniques you're curious about or whatever, then just put a little note in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're not a subscriber, and I'll keep them coming. So thank you very much. We'll see you later.